Oh, people, we've come a long way since week 0 here. We were talking about like, ooh, look at this Hawaii matchup, Joe, and how things can play out for the rest of the regular season. That was week 0. We're not even in an official week anymore. Why? Because it's College Football Championship Saturday right here on the SportsGrid Network with College Football Today. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi here. We got an hour to get down to business because why, Joe? We kick off the Big 12 Championship at 12 noon. We'll get to that game and more in hour number 2, Joe, but I think we want to hit back on some of these college vacancies at coaching spots that have been filled. And the biggest name on the board was Lane Kiffin. Where's he going to go? Is it LSU? Where's he going to go? Is it Florida? Will he stay at Ole Miss? Well, Joe, he chose LSU, and the ramifications for LSU getting him are what?
Well, I think a legitimate winner, right? And the national championship aspirations.
Mike the Tiger right there.
Back in Baton Rouge, I mean, it's a 7-year deal, $91 million, but they guaranteed potentially $25 million for a roster, something that Brian Kelly only had $18 million. What a difference a year makes, right? $7 million in the kitty to potentially get elite talent. And we know that Lane Kiffin in today's landscape is one of the best recruiters in college football. He gets it. He elevates his players. He elevates his program and his staff, and that's why he's a hot commodity. Now, news came out of Baton Rouge late last night from Kiffin and the school. They paid their defensive coordinator, Blake Baker, $3 million to stay in Baton Rouge and take care of that defense. That's a huge addition because, again, you're going to lose a DC that has major talent like Harold Perkins and some other, defensive backs and talent in the front seven that could potentially stay with Baker calling the shots on the defensive side of the ball. And again, Tulane was thought to go after Baker in a big way to replace John Summerall. So you keep the DC, you keep that defensive talent. Now you could build around it in the transfer portal, something that Lane does better than anybody right now, finding young talent, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Again, 9.5 win total this year for 26. Last year it was only 8.5, but back-to-back years with Brian Kelly. So an extra win or two is what Lane Kiffin brings you. And I can tell you this, they're not going to get kicked in the chops by the likes of Texas A&M losing by 21, 22 points at home. That's not going to happen again.
Yeah, major upgrade. And also it just shows the amount of money that LSU has available to them to pay a coach like Brian Kelly to leave and then sign a massive deal for a new coach. And that doesn't even, like we sometimes, Joe, just talk about, he's getting $90 million. Do you know how much the rest of that coaching staff is going to make if you tack it on to him? It's unbelievable because coaches don't say, give me all the money and then I have a small budget for my assistant coaches. Massive budget down there in LSU, no doubt about it, Joe. But
I just want to bring in, he's very close to Eddie O, too. Yeah. And Eddie O potentially had said he would, love a return. You bring that type of talent, another major recruiter, and Ed Ogeron back to Baton Rouge, you're going to have a fantastic NFL caliber type of staff, and they're going to hit the ground running week number 1 come 2026.
Now, somebody leaves a program to go to another program. We're talking about there with Lane Kiffin, Joe, which means somebody has to fill in for Ole Miss. Pete Golding, named head coach there. This is one of those where I look at and say, boy, you had one of the innovators in college football as your head coach in Lane Kiffin. Now you go defensive. How does that work?
But, it wouldn't have.
Is that a panic move?
Well, it's not a panic move. I mean, he came from Nick Saban's tree as well. He was a former co-defense coordinator under Nick Saban. He's an older guy. He gets it. But, again, the brains potentially of that offense, it was Kiffin, but it was Charlie Weiss Jr. Now, Charlie Weiss Jr. potentially he's coaching in the playoff, then going to join potentially Lane as the OC in Baton Rouge. If you're Ole Miss, would you have rolled the dice with Charlie Weiss Jr., knowing young gun, no prior coaching experience, but he's the brains of the offense? Would you have done that? I'm just saying. I like Golden, but it seems like I don't put it this way. Yeah. I don't think Golden is going to have the success that Brent Venables has had at Oklahoma.
By the way, shout out Brent Venables as well, because this season, looking at his schedule, I'm like, he's ready to get himself fired. It's not even his fault at this point.
They were running him out of town.
Yeah.
And I'll just say this. I'm a huge proponent of Oklahoma. People say, well, I hear it on all other networks. Oh, their offense stinks. Okay. Were we talking about Notre Dame's offense last year with Riley Leonard? we were talking about the national championship caliber defense. Were we talking about Penn State's offense with Drew Aller that couldn't hit a wide receiver in a college football playoff game? No, we were talking about the rushing attack and the defense led by Abdul Carter and that front seven. So I don't want to hear it about Brett Venables. He knocked off 4 opponents that were top 25 caliber teams. He knocked off Michigan with Bryce Underwood when they were a top 25 team at his place, covered. Knocked off Missouri, covered as a top 25 team. Went to Knoxville and Tuscaloosa and knocked off both when his back was against the wall. Tennessee and Alabama, those teams had a winning percentage of basically over 600, Donnie. Come on, I don't want to hear it. He's done a great job, and he has a quarterback that, if we're looking at, he's a gunslinger in a big spot. Would you bet on Mateer? I would.
And by the way, and losing the Red River rivalry there with your quarterback out as well to a good Texas team.
Well, he started that game, but he came back from 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But he came back from surgery. He didn't play in 3 weeks. He didn't play. I mean, come on. We're bashing Brent Venables for losing 2 games.
Brent's back in. It's back in the picture there. Oh, you jump man. How about this next game, Joe? Big Ten. Come on now. Indiana, Ohio State. The O must go, as they used to say in boxing, Joe. Somebody's leaving this game with a loss, but both of these teams will be following through and playing in the college football playoff. Tonight, 5.5 opening line here. Down to 4.5 at most spots here. Even 4s starting to creep into the sports landscape here. A total, Joe, 46.5 to 47.5. We're indoors. We have an electric offense on one side, maybe the best defense that we've seen in a couple years on the other side with Ohio State. What wins out, Joe? Is it Indiana's offense? Is it Kurt Cignetti's innovation? Or is it just too hard to score against Matt Patricia's defense?
Well, again, they're going to have to use their Heisman Trophy candidate, Fernando Mendoza, and that's where I'm back in Indiana. I just want to go through those numbers again because we brought them up at the top of the hour. Since 1989, Ohio State straight up 31-0-1 against Indiana. Last victory for the Hoosiers in Bloomington, 41-7, 1988. They've been dominated by Ohio State. They've lost the last 4, including last year where they lost 38-15 by an average margin of defeat of 33.7 points per game. Ohio State, over the last 11 games of the regular season this year, has held opponents to only 74 rushing yards per game. We talk about Indiana. Every time they run it for basically over 200, they dominate games. They have 6 games over 300 yards rushing. They have won by an average margin of victory of 47.3 points per game. But they're not just going to be able to line up and push around Ohio State. It has to be Fernando Mendoza. It has to be Omari Cooper and those wide receivers to stretch Ohio State over the top and then open up the rushing attack of Roman Hemby and obviously Kalen Black. But again, for me, I'm going to bank on the guy that's done it all year. I'm going to take a shot with the 4.5. I like Mendoza. He's a gunslinger. And I think Cignetti, in the loss last year, has a better team. He learned from his mistakes. He goes all out. I don't know if the game gets through the total, Donnie. I lean to the over, but I like Indiana with the points.
Yeah, we're going to stick with this game after the break as well, Joe. But just talking about the quarterbacks themselves, we brought up the conversation, the topic of the conversation, I should say, in hour number 1 with the Heisman Trophy and who was going to win it and how this game's going to play out. And I think, and then again, same thing with Joe, Indiana wins this game, it's going to be Mendoza. Now, if you take a look at the other side, Sane would have to outperform Mendoza for them to win, and he's going to have to get an extra little bump there to go over Diego Pavia. We understand that, Joe, but for me, I look at Fernando Mendoza. 206.5 is his passing yards today. He absolutely has to go over that. I think he will. I think he will.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why you're seeing it so low is 121 allowed. That's the passing yards allowed. Only 5 touchdowns by Ohio State allowed all year. They forced 7 interceptions, 59% completion percentage. Okay, so pick your poison. You can't run it against the front 7, and you can't throw it. But they haven't faced an explosive offense like this. We know Michigan. We know other teams that have struggled. Penn State with inexperienced quarterback play. You have a guy that could put up 250 to 300, and in big matchups has done that. You gotta, if you're back in Indiana, it has to be Mendoza in the passing attack tonight.
Yeah, we take a look at the receiving props too. Joe Carnell Tate 67.5. Jeremiah Smith listed at 74.5. Omar Cooper Jr. 54.5. We'll get to those after the break and take a deep look. And also, Coach Terry Bowden's going to join us a little bit later this hour, Joe. I love to ask him questions about these big games. Like, what new wrinkles might we see from some of these teams? Because after a dozen games or so, everything is on tape. How are you going to surprise that team? Signetti, one of the best at doing that here. So, having some fun on a Saturday with the boys? Absolutely. Let's get back to the games next, right after this short break.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just like ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave. Yep. He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
Take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total or going into the year with the Patriots. It was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
Can't get enough, people. You know it. It's SportsGrid. It's college football today. It's Championship Saturday. DRS and Joe Lisi here having some fun with that. Indiana Hoosiers, Ohio State Buckeyes game here, Joe. Just going over some props. The wide receiver position. Some of the best in the business playing in this game. Carnell Tate has been fantastic throughout his OSU career. Maybe the best player in the country, pound for pound, is Jeremiah Smith. How, Joe? Does that Indiana defense slow them down, or do they, or don't they?
Well, again, I mean, from a defensive perspective, I think they play a lot of zone as opposed to man-to-man because, again, if they play man-to-man, you better get to Julian saying, otherwise it's going to be a long day. You would have to believe Ohio State, and they haven't played since last year, has the edge in the trenches, right? So how do you expose that? You're going to have to, because think about what Penn State did to them. And Penn State, their defense is nowhere near where Ohio State is, and they basically shut down the rushing attack for the Hoosiers, right? They forced the game on Fernando Mendoza. They played a lot of zone coverage, and that's where, obviously, Mendoza caught them in the final quarter. But it was a nip-and-tuck type of game, 24-20, right? Ohio State has speed on every level. Bo Jackson and obviously C.J. Donaldson at the running back position, but Tate and Smith are legit. I mean, I think if I'm I don't want to get into a lower scoring game and benefit Indiana. I want to allow those players over the top, see if you can speed kill, see if you can stop us. Right? Again, that's why I lean to the over. But again, Indiana has to be the one to dictate the tempo. It cannot be Ohio State because if they do, it's lights out.
Touchdown props, Joe. Lights out, pay dirt picks here. Jeremiah Smith is the favorite. And by the way, we're getting good prices here. Minus 130. He's the highest in the clubhouse, as we like to say. Carnell Tate, minus 105. Surratt, plus 110, Joe. Bo Jackson, plus 115. Then Henby, plus 125. It feels to me like it's very hard to score touchdowns against Ohio State. Yes, we know that. Touchdowns will be scored today, but you take a look at Hemby there, Joe. 53.5 rushing yards, 70 yards plus rushing. Alt that up to a plus 172, and the anytime touchdown marker at a plus 125 price. Feels to me like Hemby has to score a touchdown. Like, if they're in this game, he's got to score, no? Or is it all in the air?
It could be all in the air.
Okay.
I mean, I would think Surratt and Cooper are live from the anytime touchdown because, again, I'm going in with the mentality it's got to be Mendoza over the top. That doesn't mean Hemby can't score later in the fourth quarter, but I need big days out of both of my wide receivers because you talk about Surratt and Cooper. They've combined, Donnie, for 106 receptions, 22 touchdowns this year, 11 apiece. If they're not scoring in this game, it's going to be a long day. They're not covering the 4.5. I need the passing attack to take over, so I'm looking passing Cooper and Surratt. Again, I think they have great value, either one of those, but it's Mendoza, too, through his passing total and through his 2+ touchdowns today.
Pick up this game a little bit later in the show as well, Joe. Certainly one of those games you can't miss there. 2 undefeated teams, 1 and 2 in the country here, playing for that top overall seed in the NCAA playoff. We'll see how that one turns out. But Georgia and Alabama in the SEC, a lot to get down with because why? Georgia's in no matter what. Most people think Alabama's in no matter what, and look at this spread, Joe. 1.5 the opening number, 1.5 sits here on game day. 48.5 as the total. Georgia and Alabama, as we like to say, Joe, the way it's supposed to be.
Yeah, so we saw 2.5s earlier in the week. They got bought down. A lot of people and a lot of sharps coming in on Alabama. I understand that. Undefeated 4-0 in SEC championship games against Georgia. They've won the last 3 by an average margin of victory of 4.3 points per game. You just look at this game right now, Donnie, and you just say, okay, you got to believe that Alabama thinks that Ty Simpson is a little bit better than Gunnar Stockton, right? Yeah. He attacked that secondary in the first meeting and had 275 yards. Some of the games down the stretch, Ty Simpson's been throwing 122 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's all well and good. But the way Georgia's defense is playing right here, right now, they need him to get back to 250, 300. Think about the game against Oklahoma. He struggled. He didn't put up a ton of yards, didn't throw for multiple touchdowns. Again, Auburn's defense, very good in run support. They ran the football a little bit better. The way Georgia has been playing now, and think about what they did against Haynes King. The Haynes King had less than 40 yards rushing, and it was averaging 339 total yards per game, and they completely handcuffed Georgia Tech's offense. It's got to be Ty Simpson through the air, and that means Bernard and Ryan Williams to potentially step up.
Help me out with this, Joe. I look at the rushing props in this. Nate Frazier, 60.5. Obviously a Georgia running back. Gunnar Stockton, their quarterback here, he's at 33.5. Simpson's at 9.5, the quarterback for Alabama. And then we have Chauncey Bowens, UGA, again, 33.5. I don't have any statistics up right now on FanDuel for the running back position for Alabama. Why is that, Joe?
Well, for Alabama, because Jam Miller's banged up. So, again.
Now, is he expected possibly to play? Is that what they're waiting on, or no?
No, they had his anytime touchdown prop up, but from all the reports on Alabama, he's significantly hindered in this game. And, again, Tuscaloosa and beat reporters said he's like 90 to the 10. He's not going to play in this matchup. And again, if he's not 100%, it's not like he's a world beater out there. He's not a 1,000-yard rusher. So, you're really at a disadvantage. And we talk about Alabama's MO. They're not a running attack, right? They only average 121 yards on the ground, 3.7 yards per carry. They can get by potentially with other playmakers in this ball game. I will just say, Nate Frazier was in the doghouse earlier in the year. It was more of a Bowens-heavy type of ground attack. Frazier got back into the good graces with 140-plus performance. I think it was 180 against Miss State. He broke out. Now he's the main back again. In an SEC championship, Bowens is only a freshman. Frazier's the more experienced running back. I think Kirby, if you're looking rushing attack, I think you go Gunnar Stockton, who loves to run in these type of situations. And don't be shocked. Again, 224 is what they rushed on Alabama previously for 6 yards per carry. Frazier could have 100 yards on the ground today.
By the way, was it the SEC championship game last year, if I remember correctly, where Gunnar Stockton got destroyed on the goal line and then Carson Beck had to come in but couldn't throw the football just to hand off? What game
was the other way around. It was Carson Beck got hurt.
Yes.
And
but didn't he come in late in the game, Carson Beck, to hand off, though? for the game winner?
I don't. He got. He
I think he might have came back
He
in.
might have. You're
Yeah.
right. Where Stockton's helmet came
Yeah.
off, he got absolutely smashed. Yeah, that was. I didn't realize Carson Beck came in.
I think he came in for like a handoff and then win the
It's
football game,
possible.
Joe. Touchdown props in this game. I actually like Stockton plus 165. Do you have any looks here for a touchdown in this game?
Yeah, I mean, I do like Nate Frazier. I do like Zach Branch. And it wouldn't shock me on the flip side. I like Jeremy Bernard. In big matchups, Ty Simpson goes to him early and
Now,
often.
you always call him Jeremy. Is that because that what you like to call him?
I don't. Why? What's his first
Jeremy.
name? All right, there, Jeremy.
Oh, no, but I've never
Jeremy.
corrected you all along. So that's just Lisi
I
likes
just
to
said
call him
Jeremy.
that, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Like, there you go. Jeremy spoken.
Jeremy?
Hey, class today, man.
Jeremy.
Yeah.
It seems the same to me.
Jeremy Bernard is the
Jeremy.
name here. We got action
Jeremy.
ready to go, people, because why? There's a noon kickoff we got to get to, Joe.
Can't wait.
Can BYU pull the upset? Come on back and find out.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just like ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total or going into the year with the Patriots was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
We're about a half hour away from a noon kickoff of the Big 12 championship game. SportsGrid College Football Today. It's how we get down to business and have some fun breaking these games down, just like we've done all year long. Donnie Rightside and Joe Lisi, heavy favorite Texas Tech today, Joe. 12.5 across the board as we see, a total of 49.5. BYU wins and they're in. BYU loses, they're probably out. No matter what happens to Texas Tech today, they will be in the college football playoff. But looking, Joe, to flex their muscles a little bit. The expectations for this game as a big favorite for Texas Tech, or what?
Well, I mean, just take care of business. I mean, just win this game the way they did 29-7 in Lubbock, right?
Yep.
They covered that game basically as a 9.5, 10-point favorite against the Cougars and just dominated. They won the turnover battle 3-0 over BYU, and they shut down the rushing attack of L.J. Martin. They held that rushing attack to basically 62 yards in that ball game. If they could do it again, they're going to win this ball game convincingly and cover the spread 12.5 points. I just think if we're looking props-wise, it's got to be Bachmeier through the air. He's got a 188 number. I think he could potentially go to 225. Now, when you just look at the matchup, Chase Roberts, their big play wide receiver, is coming back for this game. He was injured in the victory over UCF. He's back. He's get listed. I think he can get to 70 yards in this matchup. Does have great value to hit pay dirt. Kingston as well. But it can't just be running the football with L.J. Martin against the best front seven in college football, Donnie, in Texas Tech, that is just allowing 68 rushing yards per game and 2.3 yards per carry. It's not going to change.
Yeah.
They need to change it up in terms of the philosophy. It has to be Bachmeier through the air to open up the rushing attack. They need to be more aggressive. They can't just play straight up. Otherwise, they're going to get blown out.
Answer me this question, too, because, again, so much of the games that we talk about today, Joe, win or lose, the ramifications outside of the win or the loss are absolutely massive. Is there a way, in your mind, BYU can lose a football game today, and then the committee go, we can't penalize them for losing or having a close loss to Texas Tech?
It's got to be 3 or less. It's got to be on a last-second play where BYU loses and they play so well, or Donnie, they put up 35 points and they lose 38-35.
Yeah.
In that type of game.
I don't see how you can. I mean, again, the NCAA committee they've set a precedent, though, that you can drop if you do lose games. But we're also now talking about, Joe, because here's where I want to say it as well. Sometimes in games, it's like, okay, we don't really have a chance to come back. But every point matters to some of these teams. Like Alabama. If Alabama, let's just say, Joe, was down 11 points with a minute to go, they are doing their best to punch in a touchdown, even if it doesn't even matter just for that final score. Talk to me about, you're getting over 10 points here with BYU.
You're almost
the
getting 2
process of them saying,
touchdowns.
yes, we're down 10. Oh, the game's over 30 seconds to go. No, we have to score some points here to make it look better for the committee.
Yeah, if you're BYU, you're taking shots, right? You're throwing haymakers and you're taking shots to potentially give you the biggest margin of victory and or the smallest margin of defeat to leave the committee with the eye test, right? We always talk about the eye test. Now, they are playing today while Miami and Notre Dame aren't.
Yeah.
That's got to count for something. And again, they're
nothing. Counts for nothing.
Donnie, they won 8 games this year in the Big 12 by 12.8 points per game. Texas Tech has won 8 games by 31 points per game. Tech has the best rush defense in college football. Again, their only loss, Tech, was to Arizona State when Morton was out.
Yeah.
Will Hammond got knocked around in that game. Again, you're talking about 2 marquee. Is the Big 12 better than the ACC? In my opinion, yes.
It is.
Arizona State pushed Texas to the limit last year as a 12.5-point underdog. In the college football playoff. Mm-hmm. That doesn't carry any weight. It wasn't the ACC. The ACC got smashed last year. Clemson got smashed by Texas by 14 points.
Now, tell me about some of this rushing game here, Joe. Cameron Dickey, Texas Tech, 86.5. Expect to have a pretty good game on the ground. But I always look at guys, even the quarterbacks, like Bear Bachmeier, 30.5. Sometimes in these games, Joe, sustaining the ground game leads to victory. Can BYU muster a ground game with maybe L.J. Martin or their quarterback?
No, I don't think L.J. Martin. Again, that's just straight up running the football. If you're going to take a rush yard on BYU, I take a shot on Bachmeier because, again, the ability to maybe break, contain, RPO, design type of plays to get Texas Tech's front seven thinking of different options as opposed to just lining up and trying to overpower them. You're not going to do that with David Bailey and that front seven. Rodriguez at the linebacker position. This is the best group in the Big 12 and potentially all of college football. Has to be the legs of Bachmeier if we're talking rushing attack.
Pater picks today. The running back certainly leading the way, Joe. Cameron Dickey in this game, a minus 230 price. That's Texas Tech. Jacoby Williams at a minus 135 price. Then you have L.J. Martin and BYU plus 115, followed by Douglas and Carter. Give me a pick or two here who you think could find Pater today.
I like Douglas. I like Eakin for Texas Tech. Eakin, the tight end, is always big. Douglas hit pay dirt against West Virginia last week with not 1 but 2. Yeah. And if we're talking BYU, I go to Chase Roberts and I go to Kingston. Because, again, I'm looking at the wide receivers. The passing attack needs to be there for BYU.
There we go, people, all set and ready to go. Coach Terry Bowden's on deck next. Let's get after it, have some fun, and we'll be right back.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show. Only on SportsGrid.
You take a look at it, you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total or going into the year with the Patriots was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today. Only on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid college football today on a championship Saturday. No better place to be than right here, right now. It's Donnie Rightside. It's Joe Lisi. Now we bring in the coach, Coach Bowden. We need him for today. It's championship Saturday, Coach. I know you're fired up. How we doing out there?
Doing great. Just getting ready. A little bit chilly here in Louisiana, but it's going to be great in front of that fireplace watching these football games. And there's a lot of heat on a lot of teams, I promise you, because it's coming down to the wire and who's going to make it. The most fascinating thing is this whole playoff thing has got us focused on the bottom half of the top 12. We're overwhelmed with who's going to do this, who's going to do that, and I'm not sure there's any method to the madness.
Always, Coach. Even if they expand the playoffs even more, the funny thing about it is we argue about, look at the 32nd team they left out in college basketball as opposed to the top half. It's just the way the politics goes, and it's a lot of fun. Coach, before we get to the games themselves, you've been in big game environments, none bigger than the SEC championship. Tell me how you would go about the work week for both of these teams and the coaches, and also maybe just trying to levy it a little bit by saying, hey, let's take a little bit off here. We know the situation and how serious it is, but let's have fun during the week. How do you prepare for games like this?
I mean, that is the only answer. You've got to bring it down. You bring the emotion down. Try to be calm, levity, a little bit of enjoyment. Somehow make sure they don't rise to the occasion until Saturday. Until today, don't get them playing the game on Tuesday or play the game on Wednesday. And with Georgia and Alabama, that can't happen. Let me tell you something. This is a personal game to Kirby Smart. His legacy, I'm sure how he feels about himself and how he knows his fans feel. The SEC championship, the game against Alabama, people can talk about, well, it's nothing now that we have a playoff. It's everything. So this is a huge game. He's got to make sure he keeps his emotions down in practice and to keep those players even keeled. And today is where it's got to rise right now.
We'll start right there with the SEC championship game. It's going to be a massive game. Currently, right now, Coach Raven, maybe about a -1.5 to -2, depending where you're shopping at, as a favorite towards Georgia, which is basically a coin flip. I need some information on this game about how close these two teams are. And, Coach, also the importance of, can Alabama still make the college playoff if they lose this game today?
Well, that's going to be a decision that's got to be made. I think that, but it's not going to be an easy one. Because once you start leaving and having no team in the ACC, if Duke were to win and all those kind of things, you would think they're going to be in. But they've got to do some crazy things to pick the right teams at the bottom part of the 12th. But getting back to this game, I tell you, Georgia, it's going to be important that Georgia stays close at the beginning. He's got to have those guys coming out of that locker room ready to play because Georgia has fallen behind twice against Alabama, and they're too good to spend the whole game catching up and hoping you're going to win it at the end. I think if Georgia will come out there and play a great first half, keep it close, don't have to be winning even. They'll pull away because of their strong running attack and they have a better defense. And I think Kirby Smart will make the better game time adjustments to win in the second half.
Coach, it's back-to-back games in Mercedes-Benz Dome, and we know Georgia knows that dome very well. Is there any benefit to that, knowing that they already played there last week against Georgia Tech?
Yeah, the one big thing is a legal procedure, crowd noise. An indoor stadium gives you difficult crowd noise, and that usually affects the offensive lineman and snap count. A legal procedure, jumping off sides, or backing up too soon. that's one they should be more comfortable with. It was an advantage to Georgia to have just played there. They will recognize the noise level, and those offensive lines should do a better job of being prepped for it. And it only takes 3 or 4 5-yard penalties on first or second down to stall a drive or two and cost you the game.
Taking a look at the BYU Texas Tech game, Coach. Battle of the Big 12 here. Love the fact that it starts right at 12 o'clock, roughly 25 minutes. We will be underway watching championship football. Heavy favorite for Texas Tech today, Coach. Minus 12.5 and a total of 50.5. In your mind, is there a chance that BYU can pull off this upset and get into the college football playoff?
Yeah, it is. They're going to have to find a way to make a big play. You know, they're not going to be able to run the ball very well against this front. I mean, it's Texas Tech is maybe one of the best in the country, if not the best, at stopping the run. But they've got to throw that run at them. If you can throw that run at them and get an explosive play or two, it's going to take 1 or 2 explosive plays and win the turnover battle for them to have a chance, because Texas Tech, you know, in all 11 games they've won, it's been 20-plus points in every victory. And they won decisively over BYU. You know, when 2 teams play twice in a row, I always like the team that lost to come back and win the second time, unless there's a separation in talent, a separation in ability. And I just think right now in this game, you have to look at the separation in talent, definitely on the defensive front of Texas Tech.
Coach, because they got blown out in Lubbock last time, from an offensive perspective, we believe that they're going to be a little bit at a disadvantage running the football. Could Kalani Sitake and the offense maybe utilize an up-tempo or a 2-minute offense just to build a little bit of momentum early on?
Well, this late in the season, unless they've done that several times during the year and the players are comfortable with it, you can't do things that your own team will be at a disadvantage because they can't execute. So, yes, you can up-tempo, and more importantly, you can change tempo. Maybe one time come out fast, one time come out slow. Try to get the defense off balance so they're not quite ready of when the ball's going to be snapped. You can do those things, but you got to be careful this late in the season without a week off, is to change a lot of things that might end up hurting your own team, because, hey, they've been pretty good too. At 11-1, they've been a pretty good football team too, and the only reason they have to do some of those things is because they're playing a better football team.
Talking with Coach Terry Bowden here on Championship Saturday right here on the SportsGrid Network. Take a look at the 8 o'clock game tonight in the Big Ten. Coach, 2 undefeated teams are going to square up, number 1 and number 2 in the country. That is Indiana and Ohio State, with Ohio State as a favorite at minus 4.5 and a total at 46.5. This should be fantastic. Both teams automatically in the college football playoff, but boy, you would love to see Indiana come away with their first Big Ten championship. Feels like in eons, Coach.
Well, you know what? And people think, well, Kurt Cignetti, he's the young new coach out there against the veteran. He is a more veteran coach even than Day. He's been doing this a long time. And, again, he's been a head coach at different levels, but he's been in playoffs. He is ready for a game like this, and he's a very sharp coach. So it's going to be a great game. You've got the number 1 defense at Ohio State against the number 2 in the nation offense. You've got 2 quarterbacks that I think are very similar. They're going to really – they should balance out against each other. Both of them very, very good. But I think the difference in this game, as I look at it, I always say, okay, who's got the most veteran NFL talent? Who's going to put the best football players on the field on today? And it's still going to be Ohio State to a degree. So I think the coaching is good on both sides. The quarterback's going to balance out. Defense versus offense, they're both the best at what they do. But I like the overall talent level. There'll be a play or two by another guy on Ohio State's team that was one of the top players in the country. Too much talent on that football team, more than Indiana.
Coach, last year Cignetti lost this game 38-15. Does he learn from that in any way? You think he takes any different types of shots to potentially pull out the Big Ten championship?
Well, you probably learned the minute that game was over, he began to recruit better football players, do a great job in the portal, know where he lacked the strength. I think all that stuff had to be done in the preseason. You can see that he's a better football team. They're better on both sides of the ball. I mean, Indiana can run, they can throw, they can play defense. Everything they are doing at the optimum level. So I think he knew what he had to do. And it's going to come down to now when you're playing a great team with great skill, can you do it? Because I guarantee coaching makes a difference, but when it comes down to it, players will win ball games, players on the field. And so I think he'll have everything done that could be done after last year. He's got a better football team. He'll have a team that's better, better able to play better, not better prepared, but better capable of playing with Ohio State.
Coach, answer me this, too. Both of these teams have played 12 games. Everything is on tape at this point. What about the significance of the work week this week for both of these teams, putting extra wrinkles maybe in the offense or defense, and what that could mean?
You know, that's a great question. Late in the season, we've all established tendencies. I mean, you can look at 12 games and you get off computer. You know exactly what Indiana loves to do on 4th and 1 on the plus 25-yard line. You become very, very locked in to what you love to do. So the key is to know your own tendencies. So when you're playing against a team and you know that you always like to run behind the right tackle, every time in this situation, in a big game like this, you run behind the left tackle. You fake it over the right tackle and you run the naked boot. So you can take your own tendencies and you can play with them. And when they think they know what you're going to do, you do something different.
Fantastic stuff all the way across the board, Coach. I'm going to ask you this quickly here. Do we have mayhem?
Yeah.
Does Notre Dame or Miami get left out? Or are they both in once we find out tomorrow?
No, somebody's going to be left out. You can't be, and if Duke wins this vote, somebody's going to be left out. I mean, you went to Alabama, Notre Dame, Miami, BYU. It's going to be crazy, and somebody is going to be pissed off.
Nobody bats 300 anymore because the value of hitting a fly ball, which could eventually become a home run, is so much more valuable. It's when the shift in the NBA went from 2-pointers to 3-pointers. Well, if I can make 40% of my threes, I'm just going to jack threes all over the place. There's more value in that. Well, there's more value in just like ripping driver most of the time.
The Smiley Show, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar, and Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me, or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You take a look at it and you say, all right, well, can they do this? But the one thing I know, every year I love the SEC championship game. Like this year, we're going to get a pretty good treat in the Big Ten because you have Indiana and Ohio State. But every single year, it's never like I don't have to watch that. Because the reason I bring that up is there's a game that's going to be on 8 o'clock that probably should just be played at midnight or 1 a.m. The ACC championship game. Like, things are not the same.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
It's stunning to think that, right? And I had the over on the win total, or going into the year with the Patriots, was 8.5. I thought they could win 10 games. They've already won 10 games. And that is a stunning turnaround, to go from worst to first here. And they're not the only team that could do it. The Jaguars could do it too. They are right on that precipice here if they handle their business against the Titans the next couple weeks and, at least split between the Indianapolis Colts those two games.
Fantasy Sports Today, only on SportsGrid.
We've said it all today, and we got a lot more to say, Joe. How about that? We're not ready to give it up yet. We're not ready for the 12 o'clock kickoffs. We got information that the people need to know, Joe.
Let's get it.
All right. What do we say? What do we say we start with this? Do we have any pictures in the back? That's what I'm going to ask right now to the people, to
Let's
the producers
see this.
here. Do we have any Notre Dame action? Because am I going to flip the script, Joe? Am I going to get angry? Am I going to get after Notre Dame at this point? Because I do believe in a perfect world, Notre Dame and Miami should be in the college football playoff because I believe they're two of the top 12 teams in the country.
Jeez.
But look at the graph.
Look at that.
That's like a Kalshi.
I told you.
That looks like Kalshi right there.
I told you it was a dead cat bounce.
Minus
Dead cat bounce.
2,200.
Get that clip up with the dead cat
Minus
bounce.
2,200 down to
Sell.
650.
Yeah.
And it's even getting lower at this point right now. So talk to me about this because the hot topics are going to be played out on the football field today.
Yeah.
Which, you know what that means? We're going to have winners and losers, and it's going to be a little bit easier. I am praying. Look at it. Like now, like usually we're on the top of the mountain celebrating, Joe.
Yeah.
Looks like we're climbing the mountain again, about to get frostbite because we might get left out of the college football playoff. Like we're up there. We're taking our picture up there across the Hillary Step, whatever it's called.
It's going to be a documentary. They're going to find you on the mountain.
Are they going to leave me there in like my suit and stuff like that, where they pass by over generations at this point? But talk to me about this though, like the advent of Notre Dame getting in over Miami, where they were, looks like they're automatically in. Now we're having stress. Is Alabama going to win today? Is BYU going to win today? We have so much to go over, and that's what's fun to watch this play out.
Yeah, it is. I mean, if you want to take a shot, on Kalshi and some of the other predictive markets, you could definitely do that because everything is wide open, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the big thing is we don't know exactly what's going to transpire today. We have a pretty good understanding statistically about what's happened in the past and what has happened this year in the regular season, but styles make fights and anything could happen on any given Saturday. But I keep going back. If we're talking Notre Dame, 54 and 65 are the combined winning percentage and record of their 10 wins. USC is their best win at 9-3 overall, and that came at home. The two biggest matchups that they had against Miami and A&M, they lost. Those 10 wins are 453 winning percentage. So, again, when you were riding that heater and it was going up, there was no doubt. It was under the assumption
that Miami would lose.
That Miami, or either Miami
lose the pit.
Either Miami loses or
a minor upset somewhere,
or we didn't have to worry about Miami in some capacity. The fact that Miami got themselves righted after the SMU and Louisville losses, all of a sudden then opened up everything because again, what really hurt this whole situation, too, was the whole Alabama argument. Because if Alabama takes care of business against Oklahoma, there's another spot.
Yep.
But because Oklahoma upset, nobody thought that was going to happen, right?
Nope.
The great Alabama and Kalen DeBoer were just going to walk out there and come back home with a W because that's what they always do. And they got kicked in the chops and lost a very close matchup to Oklahoma. But again, nobody thought Oklahoma Brett Venables at the start of the year was looked at as dead man walking.
Yeah, it was.
Because of them over exceeding expectations. And what transpired with Notre Dame and Miami, and the fact that then now you have to worry about Bama, that's why we're here right now. Because, again, if Bama wins, Miami and Notre Dame are in, right?
Yes. I believe that. By the way, I'm on Kalshi right now, Joe. College football championship winner. Miami's back up off the carpet. Last week, 1%, Joe. We're up to 2% today.
Donnie, buy it.
$100.
Can only go down.
$5,000.
So then buy it. Right? I mean, again, the whole thing is...
I need to find more shares, Joe. You know what I mean? I got to start...
buy. Hold the market up.
Give me some of that. By the way, here's Miami's listed at 2% on Kalshi right now, Joe. Oklahoma's only 3% and Ole Miss is 4% here.
Yeah, again, I think...
Come on.
Well, I think...
You take a little Ole Miss. Look at this, Joe. $100 on Oklahoma, $3,300 back in your pocket.
Not bad. That's great. That's a great bet. I mean, again, if you believe, there's no Oklahoma's in the playoffs.
Yes.
There is no doubt Oklahoma's in. They're not dropping below Alabama. They have the head-to-head. If we're talking, but it is weird. We have the head-to-head Oklahoma over Alabama, but we don't have the head-to-head with Notre Dame and Miami. That's unbelievable.
Well, if I ask you this question, too, today, because I always like to have fun on these predictive markets, too, because you sort of try to see what's in the future and how it's going to wind up. Ohio State and Indiana are listed 1 and 2, right? 36% chance for Ohio State, 16% chance for Indiana. When do you bet this game and why? The reason I ask you that is because if you think Indiana is going to win, how much do the odds actually change for the college football playoff? Like, I don't think there's a world, Joe. If Indiana wins today, they're not going to be favorites still to win the national championship. It's probably still going to be Ohio State.
But they'd be in the 20s at least.
Yeah. So, how do you think that game actually works out, though? Like, forget about point spread. Does Indiana do you actually think Indiana wins this football game today?
I do, actually. Again, I'm taking a shot.
So you would take Indiana today in the predictive market, 16%.
Yeah, because, here's the thing. Statistically, we'll go through the stats. The last 4 victories by Ohio State have been 33.7 points per game.
Yeah.
They laid, I believe, 7.5 last year at home in Columbus on a neutral field. Now it's 4.5.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not 6.5. They're not.
It's because again,
I mean, that line to me is a little off. Now, why is it off? Are they sucking? Now, I always say this. The books establish lines to suck you in. It's not to get 50-50. That used to be the old day. They want to make sharps think about why a line is a certain way. So that's how they get Indiana money, right? Oh, why is the line 4.5? They get more Indiana. I'm just going from the spread perspective, what I know, and Mendoza, to me, is the best quarterback they've faced.
Yeah.
Right? And that could be good, bad, or ugly. right? We've seen. All I know is I have a Heisman Trophy contender quarterback catching points on a neutral field, and I might have the edge in regards to potentially, my quarterback and maybe one of my receivers.
Yeah.
I think Cooper is underrated. I think he's better than Tate. I'll just say that.
By the way, if we are looking at the championship market price, because, again, what I find so fascinating is a lot is going to be determined from today and also the price points of the teams that still make it in, Joe. You look at Alabama, and legitimately, on a even surface with everybody, Alabama can beat anybody. Good SEC team, same thing with Georgia. Alabama is 6% in the Kalshi market here, which means $100, Joe, pays back $1,677 if they win it all. Now, my question to you is, would you rather wait and hope Alabama loses and still makes it in, saying, okay, dodged a bullet, but you know as well as I do, Alabama wins this game against Georgia, guaranteed to be in the college football playoff. They're way higher than 6%.
Yeah, so you have to bet it earlier now. Now, I will say to me, right here, right now, I've said it, Georgia's the most complete team. I know they had one slip up, but I believe in Georgia more than anybody else.
Georgia right now, Joe, 12% chance. $100 wager pays back $834. Do you take Georgia before this game?
Yes.
Because you know if they win, they're going up into the high teens.
Yeah, and if they lose, they'll be dead to rights.
There we go. Great stuff here across those predictive markets here. Let's get back and close this show in style. Championship edition right here on the grid.
Now you're a 1 o'clock guy again, huh?
Well, I didn't know I have to appease you.
What do you mean appease me? I'm trying to get a read on you.
Well, that's it. I don't want you to get a read. I said.
Okay.
What are you? You're on me like flies on rice.
Well, I once watched you destroy an NFL team's season because you zagged so hard in the best bet segment.
Pro Football Today, only on SportsGrid.
The New England Patriots with Drake May. The Indianapolis Colts, who haven't had recent success, maybe not so young, but not, they haven't had playoff success. Right. The Jags. It's a very fresh playoff picture, so to speak. The Chargers hanging on right now to that 5. And Kansas City, Scott, they're going to need to beat the Houston Texans on Sunday night. Now it's real.
Yeah.
They lose this game, they're not making the playoffs.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Ole Miss got left at the altar. And Ole Miss decided, I'm either going to let her continue to embarrass me or I'm going to have some self-respect and kick her ass out the door and lock it behind her and not let her back in. And that, for me, is the right thing to do. Lane Kiffin had the right to leave.
Yep.
He chose to leave. I wish you the best of luck. Not really.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
And FanDuel are getting ready to launch their own prediction market, so Polymarket will be coming back at a time when the competitive landscape is dominated by Kalshi, and soon it's going to have FanDuel and DraftKings in there as well, which I'm really eager to see what their products look like and how the timing kind of impacts the use of Polymarket. Will it be number 1 in the App Store for the next couple months? Who knows?
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Oh, we're going to close this down in style, Joe, aren't we? College football, championship Saturday edition, SportsGrid Network. In a few moments, we're going to get kickoff, Joe, from BYU and Texas Tech. The latest lines here, no movement. -12.5, but a total, Joe, listed at 50.5. Texas Tech wins, they're in. Loses, they're in. But a Big 12 championship on the line. Can BYU either win this game or hang around double digits?
They can. They're going to need Bachmeier to step up. I don't think they do it. I still lean to Texas Tech. Best defensive front in college football. I believe in their offense as well. They can run it. They can throw it. But I will say we're seeing movement in the total. 50.5's in the market. This is up from 48.5 earlier in the week. Now people coming closer to kick. Want to see, obviously, a lot of explosive plays. Big 12 championships typically 10 to the over. Just think about the Arizona State, Iowa State game last year. So we might get points aplenty here somehow, some way.
Now, let's get to this next game in the SEC Championship game. It's a 4 o'clock start. Fantastic. Love to see it. Unbelievable atmosphere in Atlanta, the heart of SEC territory, Joe. But understand this. The winner of this game, if it is Georgia, doesn't really matter all that much. They're going to get a great seed because you'll probably drop down a little bit from that Indiana-Ohio State game. But a loss from Alabama could send them out of the college football playoff. We haven't talked about this, Joe. What happens if Alabama wins this game by double digits? Where do we seed Alabama, and what do we think about their national championship?
Well, then, again.
Like a 10-point win by Bama today.
Well, it all depends on, but you're going to put them in the top 4? Maybe they will. I don't think they would. I think Oregon would go into the top 4, right? If Indiana loses, I think it's still 1-2, Indiana and Ohio State, depending upon margin of defeat, right? If it's within 10 points, I think Indiana's still number 2 overall with that matchup. So, so to me, that's what I would do. But I think Oregon has the potential to crack the top 4 if Bama wins. I don't think you could put a 2-loss team. You're going to put Bama that lost to Florida State.
But they'll say SEC champion. It's extra weight.
No, it would be Ohio State, Indiana, Texas Tech that is in 4 now, would move to 3 if they win, and then I think Oregon or Ole Miss, depending upon what they feel. Would they put Ole Miss 4? That would be funny.
Yeah, it's funny you said that because the moment you brought up
Oregon,
Oregon's already out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah, I know.
Isn't that crazy?
Well, but they did. They're so stupid, Donnie. They said that teams that don't play this week could potentially switch spots. So now we're sort of making things up as we go. Well, would it shock you if Ole Miss all of a sudden jumps Oregon?
The best part though last week is Notre Dame had an easy victory over Stanford, and down the wire in the Iron Bowl, hey, we got to move up Alabama because they're close win in the Iron Bowl, which is ridiculous at this point. And that's the way we get here. But fantastic games to start the day. 8 o'clock, Joe. Duke and Virginia, 3.5-point side by Virginia. Virginia's the better team, but sometimes rooting for the chaos. Like Duke has had a pretty good season in conference when they needed victories, which case in point was last week against a decent Wake Forest team. Knocked them around. Yeah, well, I would just say Duke is a better road team at 4-2 than they are at home. 3-3 at home, 500 team. Wallace Wade. Yeah, so they stepped up. They only laid 1.5 last week to Wake Forest at home. They dominated that matchup, to your point. But they're a better road team. And again, it's a rematch. But again, I just don't see them changing the fact that they got abused in the interior within 2 weeks. They played basically 2 weeks ago. It's not going to change. And you have Manny Diaz that can't coach the defensive side of the ball. They're allowing 30 points per game. That's over a body of work of 12 weeks. Do we think it's going to change? I will say I like the over in 57.5 in this matchup. I do feel they take shots. Darian Mensah, 68% completion percentage, 25 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. If Duke is going to win this game, I like Virginia. But if Duke is going to win, Mensah needs a huge day. Indiana and Ohio State to end it. 2 undefeated teams, 1 versus 2 in the country here. Massive ratings certainly expected here. Live from Indianapolis. You know the Indiana Red's going to be out there. The Buckeye Red is going to be there today. If Indiana keeps this close or Ohio State wins close, my opinion's not going to change on either team. Like, they're really good. But I have a penchant, Joe, for this game. Like, if I see Indiana get beat by 14, I'm going to have to switch up a little bit. Like, really, like, this could be a referendum. You're going to want them out of the college. Exactly. I'll put Miami in over them. Notre Dame over them. No. I like Indiana. I think it comes to the quarterback position. Joe, could we see a 27-10 game, though, Ohio State? Yeah, it wouldn't shock. I'll just say this. Big Ten championship. Number 1 seed has covered in 4 straight. The last time we had a 2-seed cover was against Ohio State, the COVID year, 2020. Justin Fields and Ohio State laid like 18.5, 20.5 in that area to Northwestern. They won it 22-10. I'll just say this. My best bet of the day is Georgia, Alabama over the 48.5. I do like Georgia, though. I think they're the most complete team in the nation heading into the championships weekend. I feel we get points today, Joe. I do. I feel we get points in that game. I think we may get points across the board. Across the board. By the way, late 13.5 popped up at DraftKings for Texas Tech. People buying those. Texas Tech. That's the way we get down. Championship Saturday. I hope that last 2 hours was fun. It was fantastic information. Now it's time to see if we can cash in some of those tickets. Enjoy. It's College Football Championship right here on the grid. just can't quit Josh Allen. He's at a 16% chance. And then the Baltimore Ravens. Ooh, don't count Lamar out. The Indianapolis Colts and Daniel Jones and Shane Steichen. And then there's those Kansas City Chiefs. But I got to tell you, Joe, you see how we're going lower and lower on this list right here? I'm telling you, a nice little wild card down there. You plunk $100 back and get paid $1,429 back on Houston Texans.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
You've got an 18-1-6 hockey team. You've got a 10-2 football team. So the best record in hockey, the best record in football, and top 5 in the NBA with Jokic and the gang, and the Nuggets at 14-6. And I'm saying to myself, what other town comes close to that?
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
You then had a sensational game with the Bears and the Eagles. Who knew how great the Bears were in terms of blowing out the Eagles and maybe having the NFC race go topsy-turvy. And then you also had the 2 NBA games. So it was a big win, I thought, for Amazon for their first ever really big Black Friday day. I think it's something you're going to see them doing now forever on that Black Friday.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Football contest season is back, and so is the Las Vegas Football Contest Show, Season 2, the sharpest football contest show in the land. Focusing on all 3 Circus Sports contests and the Westgate Superbook Super Contest, we handicap the games and release our contest picks every week of the season. Featuring Super Contest champions Brady Cannon, James Salinas, and former NFL player Mike Pritchard, all team will have you prepared this season like none other. Check us out every weekend